Welcome to the newest episode of Beatin' and Bangin'. I'm your host, Kyle Dalton. We've got multiple items in today's video, including a follow-up from Monday's video, and the harsh remarks of Joey Logano about Austin Cindric in Sunday's race at Talladega. Logano addressed those comments yesterday on SiriusXM NASCAR radio, including what Chipper Jones had to say about the three-time champion. Plus, NASCAR's Senior Vice President of Competition, Elton Sawyer, appeared on SiriusXM yesterday as well to talk about Talladega. His comments are completely the opposite of what fans and Richard Petty had to say about the race, and show there's a disconnect between the sanctioning body and fans. Last week, one of the news items I wrote about on Athlon was teams turning down NASCAR's idea of run what you brung in the All-Star race. I have the comments of Denny Hamlin, Dale Jr., Kyle Busch, and Sawyer on the topic. Speaking of Busch, Kevin Harvick talked about him on his Happy Hour podcast this week and pointed out an eye-opening stat about the Richard Childress racing driver and his number 8 team. And speaking of stats, we have our By the Number segment this week and our last 5 races analysis. And lastly, sticking with our Kyle Busch theme, I'm going to be giving away this Kyle Busch autographed helmet. Stay tuned for details on how you can win it. Before we do that, let's go back to Monday and Denny Hamlin's Actions Detrimental podcast. Not sure if you saw it, but last week, the Joe Gibbs Racing driver responded to a post on X, questioning why teams would not want to do something like a run what you brung concept, or basically modify your car however you want for the All-Star race, and see if whatever comes out of it might help the short track package, which everyone agrees, including NASCAR, needs some help. Hamlin said he would address the topic on Monday's episode. Here's one of the things he had to say about it.
We're going to destroy 3 of our cars to build this car, right?
What do you mean destroy 3 of your cars?
So under the rules that were kind of put in front, it was like you have to use next-gen parts, but you can do whatever you want to them. So what we're going to do is destroy every piece and part of that car and make it lighter or something. Like we're gonna modify it. We're gonna bend the chassis. We're going to do all types of things to this thing that will make it illegal at any other racetrack that we go to. We've been very, very transparent in the fact that this car cost over $300,000. Okay, do the math real quick. Okay, if I put my 3 cars on the racetrack and I just to build this wild illegal car, I'm going to destroy it. Now I lose 1 car out of my fleet. So I only get 7 cars per door number. So that's 3 cars that are wiped out of my fleet that I'm not going to get a replacement for, because it's not, you only get a replacement car if the car has, damage to it. If you wreck it, you got to show NASCAR that it's wrecked, it's bent, or it's whatever, and you need another chassis. I can't afford to lose that out of the rotation. We used to have
Couldn't you ask
14.
them?
We used to have 14 cars. Now we're down to 7, right? The whole cost cutting thing is to shorten up how many cars we have in our stable. So yeah, can you ask for another chassis? Sure. But I'm going to spend $1 million just in parts and pieces. We haven't even developed anything yet. So just in parts and pieces to replace all this that we're going to modify, we're going to spend a ton of money, and it only pays $1 million to win. And people say, it's paid $1 million to win for 30 years. For 30 years, it's not that cool anymore.
Next up, here's what Dale Earnhardt Jr. had to say about it on the Dale Jr. download.
I just can't believe that NASCAR sat down and said, we're going to do a run what you brung. Just figure it out. If they said to the Xfinity Series, hey, we're going to have a run what you brung race, we'd all push back on that. What they should do is look at this race as an opportunity to try something to fix the short track package. And I would listen to the drivers and the teams. It's foolish for us to go to Wilkesboro for this All-Star race and not change anything. How are people supposed to be excited about going to this race or turning it on and watching it on TV? It's a race where you've really got to bust your ass to make it worth people's time. In any other sport, when you have an exhibition, they tend to have something unique, fun, different. And I know they do that as well with the format of the race and so forth. But this is a great chance for us to kick this car in the ass and turn it upside down and change a few things. Here we are about to be able to throw them into a full-on race experience where we could truly see what some of this might do.
And here's what Kyle Busch had to say about it on Monday's Door Bumper Clear.
I disagree with you. I was for it. Like, I thought this could kind of be that something to see. You know, this car's short track. It hurts.
Challenged.
Right? It is short track challenged. Thank you. And so we need to find something, ideas. Somebody brings something to the plate that we could actually try to help this thing. And so if somebody goes out there and waxes the field, then it's like, okay.
What could have been the things? Like,
I don't know. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
I think they were wide open to anything. Like,
yeah, but there's nothing.
To my understanding is I heard they were going to allow opening the motors, you know, take the floors off if you want, add wickers if you want, like, I'll do all this stupid stuff or whatever. So I don't know. I don't know where you finally draw the line on that. So I kind of get the team's perspective of it, but somebody needs somehow to figure out how to make this thing race at a short track better.
And finally, here's what Elton Sawyer said about it yesterday on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio.
We've done it for years. Our stages that we have today were born out of the All-Star race. So we get an opportunity to learn in those situations. The tires that we ran at Martinsville last year, the tires that we ran, option tires that we ran at Phoenix in the spring, all of that was born out of the All-Star race. So we felt like this time there's a unique opportunity to see what we can do with our short track package. We had some ideas and we presented them to the industry, and I'm not going to get into details behind the scenes on why we didn't get there, but there was some folks within the industry that just didn't feel like we could go there at this time, so we've elected to pivot on that format.
I provided all of those to give you some context on the varying viewpoints. And since Sawyer wouldn't go into detail, it's hard to know exactly what NASCAR offered. All I'll say is this: as Sawyer mentioned, the All-Star race has been used as a testing ground in the past. The sanctioning body was willing to do that for the teams this year and try to improve the short track package by giving them the option to open up their toolbox and get creative. According to Hamlin, it would be too costly. So they just shot it down altogether? Honestly, there are so many conflicting things being said, it's really hard to know what was made available to the teams. All I do know is this was a massive missed opportunity, and the ones who are hurt the most are the fans. An absolute shame. While we're talking about the fans, I want to first talk about Jeff Gluck's Good Race poll this week after Talladega. Don't know if you guys ever vote in it, but this week's poll was ugly. Just 39% of the respondents said it was a good race. According to the veteran journalist, that number ranked as the lowest of 19 Talladega races in his poll. The previous low was 42% from the fall 2018 race. It was also the second lowest of 45 superspeedway races in the poll. Only the 2019 Clash at Daytona was lower at 20.9%. On his YouTube channel this week, Richard Petty wholeheartedly agreed with the fans' perspective.
It looked like a pace lap every time, you know what I mean? And to me, it wasn't a race. It was just a happening. And they happened to throw the green flag. They threw the checker flag, and the number 2 car won the race, and he just happened to be in front at that time.
So you know what the fans and Richard Petty think. Now, take a listen to what Elton Sawyer had to say about it yesterday on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio.
When we hear that, first of all, when you're sitting in race control, and Mike can allude to this because I know, MRN's right next door to us, and we're standing up and you're watching, and our fans are standing on their feet. We're 4 wide. Some cases we're 5 wide. They're back to single file. Our fans are standing up. They're cheering. So it's like, okay. And then you go look at the metrics and you look at the stats after the race, and you have 67 lead changes among 23 different drivers. So when I look at all of that, or I say when we look at all of that, it's like, what are we trying to fix? What's not going the way we would like it? Now, I get it when we start talking about short track packages, when we have a guy that leads 400 some laps of a 500 lap race. Okay, we're going to do our best to try to get to work on that and figure out what we can do. But when you have 67 lead changes among 23 different drivers, I'm not real sure what we're going to work on there. But as always, we want to get better. So we want to have 70 lead changes. We want to have 25 or 30 drivers, different drivers that lead races. So I think a lot of words there, but the short answer is we're always looking at our product, whether it's super speedway, road course, intermediate, short track. We're always looking at it, trying to make it better.
Sawyer mentions the 67 lead changes among 23 different drivers a couple of times, obviously a focal point for NASCAR. Let me provide some context. John Hunter Nemechek led 1 lap. Ty Dillon led 1 lap. Cole Custer led 2 laps. J.J. Yaley led 2 laps. You see where this is going? When I think of laps led, I view it as a stat that gives you an idea of who are race-winning contenders. They are up front for a reason. They earned it. Not because of circumstance, and they just happened to move up front when a pack of cars exited the track for a mass pit stop. So the fact that NASCAR is using that as a stat to prove it was a good race is quite frankly embarrassing. I'm going with Richard Petty and the majority of the fan base on this one. Moving on to our next story, and it's a follow-up to the story I reported on Monday about Joey Logano's profanity-laced tirade on Sunday, directing his anger at Austin Cindric for what happened at the end of Stage 2. For those who missed it, here's a little refresher of what was said.
Larson to the mid, bottom of 3. Way to go, Austin. Way to go, you dumb fuck. Way to fucking go. What a stupid shit. God, he just gave it to him. Gave a Toyota stage win. Nice job. Way to go. What a dumbass.
After the race, Baseball Hall of Famer Chipper Jones unexpectedly went online and blasted Logano for his remarks. On Tuesday, Logano was asked about his explosive outburst and what Chipper Jones had to say about it during his appearance on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio.
There's a multitude of things that kind of lead up to that moment. And here's the deal, when you go super speedway racing, there's different rules in place for the teams. Right? There's the OEM rules, there's the team rules, and you try to put these all in place to try to give your cars the best chance to win. Right? Everyone knows super speedways, you got to work together, right? Things got to go together. And the rules that were set in place weren't followed. And that ticked me off quite a bit because I feel like I've always done the right thing, and I try really hard to do that. And the rules have been put in place because of things that we've done wrong in the past, right? So, like, you don't want to make the same mistakes over and over again. And it was it wasn't the first offense kind of situation. It's a straw that broke the camel's back. And yeah, I lit up pretty quickly because I care, right? Like I'm into it, man. I like racing. I am in 100%, and I expect things to go a certain way. When they don't, yeah, I get pissed off. And Austin and I talked about it. We've got to move forward, right? That's what it is. So, I explained my side. He understood. We move on. That's pretty much all there is to it. Like, there's no sense of airing our dirty laundry and really airing out what the actual rules are, because that's private information that doesn't need to be out to everybody. But the facts are that what we set in place wasn't happening, and that's why I got frustrated. But like I said, we talked about it and we moved on. Should I have hit the button and probably spouted off so much? Probably not. Probably not. Probably blew up into a little bigger situation than what it needed to. But the conversation either way needed to happen. It just more people are talking about it now. But hey, guys, like I said, I care about this stuff, man. This is my life. Racing is everything, and I put so much into it. And especially on speedway weekends, I put maybe even more into it because it's really all about what the decisions the drivers make. Right, the car matters, speed matters in the cars, but it's the little details that matter the most. And stage wins are hard to come by. So to gift one away to a Toyota, that's either one of us winning would have been great. Yeah, I'm cool with either one of us. But gifting it away was really frustrating.
But to your point, then, of what you said and sort of taking on a life of its own, I did not have Chipper Jones and Joey Logano on my bingo card for Sunday night about him kind of chiming in. I'm sure you saw that. I mean, what do you make of someone like that kind of, quite frankly, giving you a little bit of the business there about the way you kind of said some things on the radio on Sunday, Joey?
You're catching me off guard here. I have no idea what you're talking about.
So Chipper Jones.
I did not see it.
Okay, you didn't. So you know who Chipper Jones is, right? Played for the Braves back
I know
in the
who
day.
he is, yes.
Hall of Famer. Yeah, well, he actually took to social media afterward and made some comments, and he had like 3 tweets in a row kind of taking shots at you. I kind of found that to be a little bit odd. So when it gets out there in the ether, as Mike would say, and a lot of people see it, I mean, how do you feel about that?
Has Chipper Jones ever driven a race car at Talladega? It would be my first question.
No,
pretty
I don't
certain
see him
he
in
hasn't.
Racing Reference.
So,
I don't
like
think
me,
so. No, I think you're right.
That's like me saying something about baseball. I know nothing about baseball. That's like me saying something that he did something in baseball that was wrong. Like, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, you care about what people say if you, like, their opinion, if you really know them and they know you, right? Like, and they understand the scenario and the situation. Everyone's going to have their opinion on how they see things from the outside. No one else, nobody, Chipper Jones, no race fans, nobody is in the room when we come up with how we're going to race at super speedways, except the drivers, the team principals at Penske, and the crew chiefs. That is it. That's the only opinions that matter. The only ones. So everyone can go off and talk about whatever they want. They don't know the situation. They don't know everything that goes into it. So it doesn't matter what they say. And that's probably why I never saw it or really care about it, even after you tell me right now. I'm like, I mean, Chipper Jones, I mean, seems like a cool dude, right? He's done a lot. He's a pretty popular, good baseball player, but he's not a race car driver. And I know he wasn't in the room with us when we set plates when things are supposed to go. So you would think somebody that has been in professional sports and has been in meetings like that would probably take a step back and say, man, there's probably more to the story here than what there is. I'm surprised that it went that way, but maybe I don't know. Maybe he's just bored. I don't know what his situation is, but that's I tell you, I don't care.
A couple of things on Logano's comments. I can understand how he doesn't care what anyone has to say about it, including Chipper Jones. Makes total sense. But I thought the most interesting thing was, and he said it multiple times, that a rule was broken, and then he said it wasn't a first offense. So calling out Cindric for doing something wrong again, that totally caught me by surprise. He also said, I explained my side, he understood, we move on. But do they? I don't think it's just as simple as that after you first blast Cindric with a bunch of obscenities, which you know are going to be heard over the radio, and then days later, after cooling down, you call him out for breaking the team rule multiple times? I'm sure Cindric isn't going to be happy to hear that. Things are getting really interesting at Team Penske. And our last news item for the day is from what I heard yesterday listening to Kevin Harvick's Happy Hour podcast. He was talking about Kyle Busch and the mistakes the number 8 team has made this year, and then focused on one specific area. Take a listen.
When you look at Kyle Busch and that whole team, they're 17th in the points right now, but I feel like they've had their moments where they've run a lot better than that. And, you know, Kyle in general, we've seen him spin out in qualifying. We've seen mistakes on pit road. He's had 4 speeding penalties on pit road. They've had 1 loose wheel. Their pit crew is the 20th ranked in just overall speed. But this is the stat that really stuck out to me about the pit crew. They've had 3 stops all year that were under 10 seconds.
Oh, my God.
The number 1 pit crew of Bubba Wallace has had 18.
That is a massive disparity between Wallace and Busch. And when you think about it, and I know I heard Kyle talking about it earlier this year, how he is always one of the top drivers when it comes to his time on pit road, because he's always pushing the limit going into and out of his pit box. Now we know why. He's trying to make up that deficit for his pit crew. I can only imagine if he had Wallace's pit crew that his statistics would be noticeably better. Speaking of statistics, it's time for our By the Number segment. And we're going to start this week with our race progression charts. And let's start with the aforementioned Kyle Busch and Austin Dillon at Talladega. It was an up and down day for the 2-time champion, who started on the outside of row 1, and it went downhill from there, including the end of that first stage when he was involved in the accident with Brad Keselowski and Ryan Blaney, which dropped him to the back of the pack around lap 50. And then, of course, he was running inside the top 10 late when he got nabbed for speeding. Austin Dillon, on the other hand, started 5th, dropped back, and recovered in the end for a 10th place finish. Moving over to the race-winning team of Penske, a few things stick out, including Ryan Blaney being involved in the end of the Stage 1 incident, Joey Logano running well for much of the day only to be disqualified, and Austin Cindric having a strong day, ending with his first win of 2025. The Hendrick cars collectively had a really strong day, all of them finishing inside the top 10, including Kyle Larson recording his best ever finish at a superspeedway with a runner-up result. Byron finished 3rd, Elliott finished 5th, and Bowman finished 7th. The other powerhouse organization at Joe Gibbs Racing has an interesting chart. Christopher Bell had a solid day going until his JGR teammate Denny Hamlin gave him a bad push and ended his day. But take a look at the last 60 laps and you can see the Toyotas were all on the same strategy. It looked really good for 30 laps, and then Ross Chastain put a big block after the pit cycle that sent the teams to a mid-pack finish. And our last one of the day will be RFK Racing. Both Keselowski and Buescher saw their respective days end early with crashes. Preece had a great day and finished 2nd until he didn't, and NASCAR disqualified the number 60 car. They finished a nice and tidy 34th, 36th, and 38th. And lastly, it's time for this week's last 5 races analysis. Denny Hamlin tops this week's numbers with an impressive 6.0 average finishing position, his 21st at Talladega inflating his number. He's followed by the normal cast of characters who have been up front for much of the season, including 3 HMS drivers in William Byron, Kyle Larson, and Chase Elliott. Bubba Wallace makes his first appearance inside the top 10 this year at number 5 with an AFP of 10.8, including 2 top 5s at Homestead and Martinsville and his 8th place result on Sunday at Talladega. He's followed by his 23XI Racing teammate Tyler Reddick, Chase Briscoe, and undoubtedly the biggest mover in Ty Gibbs. This is exactly the reason I started talking about this stat last year, because it really shows how NASCAR is a what have you done for me lately sport. If you've been paying attention, in our first last 5 races analysis of 2025, the number 54 car was at the bottom of this list. Now over his last 5, he's posted 3 finishes of 13th or better. For the first 6 races of the year, he didn't have any finishes better than 16th at Daytona. And as I do every week, I like to point out a couple of surprises at the bottom, and one of those has to be Alex Bowman. He sandwiched 3 ugly results inside a couple of top 10s for an AFP of 21.6. And unfortunately for Brad Keselowski fans, his position in this week's analysis isn't a surprise. He's been down here most of the season, and his last 5 is ugly with only that 16th at Bristol inside the top 20. Tough sledding for the number 6 crew. All right, guys, that's a wrap on today's episode. We talked about multiple news items, and I want to get your thoughts. Let's start with the run what you brung conversation. Jump into that conversation and let me know what you think about the teams turning down the idea. And what about the race at Talladega? Where did you vote in Gluck's Good Race poll? And what do you think about Elton Sawyer's remarks, basically saying there's nothing to fix? For you Team Penske fans, what is the vibe for you after Talladega? There's obviously the high of Austin Cindric winning, but there appears to be trouble behind the scenes. Let me know what you think about that. And for you Kyle Busch fans, I'm sure you've noticed the struggles on pit road. What do you think it's going to take to fix it? And speaking of Kyle, I'm going to give away this autographed helmet of the future Hall of Famer. All you have to do in your comment is type KB helmet. That's it, KB helmet. I'll have a random draw and announce the winner in next Monday's video after Texas. Thanks again, guys, for checking out the latest episode and supporting the channel. I really and truly appreciate it and hope you have a great rest of your day.